You are standing in the kitchen. You told yourself you would not give in this time. Then two eyes look up at you, brows lifted, and something in your chest just breaks. You reach for a treat before you even decide to. But the real answer is far stranger than cute. That look was not an accident. It was engineered.
Is it?
Your dog did not learn that expression by watching television. It did not copy it from another dog. Somewhere in the last 20,000 years, a muscle grew in its face that should not be there. A muscle wolves do not have. A muscle built for one purpose only, to move you.
Like this little puppy right here. It instantly makes you go, "Aw."
Think about that for a second. Evolution does not usually hand out new facial muscles for free. Muscles cost energy, they cost development. Nature is stingy, so when a species grows a brand new one, something enormous must be pushing for it. And in this case, the thing pushing for it was sitting across the fire, holding the food. In 2019, a team led by comparative psychologist Julian Kaminsky dissected the faces of dogs and wolves side by side. What they found reshaped how scientists think about the entire history of your living room companion. Dogs had a muscle around the inner eyebrow that wolves almost completely lacked. Scientists call it the levator anguli oculi medialis.
Right.
You do not need to remember that name, just remember what it does. It lifts the inner corner of the eyebrow, widens the eye, and creates an expression that looks, to a human brain, almost exactly like sadness, almost exactly like a human infant asking for help. That is not a coincidence, that is a design.
Is it?
Here's where it gets stranger. Kaminsky's team also looked at how often dogs used this movement compared to wolves. Dogs raised the inner brow far more frequently, and they did it specifically when a human was watching them. Not when they were alone, not when they were with other dogs, only when a person's eyes were on their face. Even wolves raised closely by humans since birth barely have the anatomy to do it at all.
I just can't do it, Captain.
The muscle simply is not built into their wiring the way it is in dogs. So ask yourself the question the researchers asked. Why would a wild predator evolve a facial muscle whose entire function is to make a different species feel something? Because it worked.
Goddamn right.
And because you, without ever meaning to, have been rewarding it for thousands of years. Rewind further, tens of thousands of years, to the first wolves that drifted toward human campfires. Anthropologist and canine cognition researcher Brian Hare has spent decades studying this shift, and his work points to something counterintuitive. It was not the boldest wolves that survived near humans. It was not the strongest.
Nope.
It was the friendliest. The ones with a flicker less fear, a flicker more curiosity, edged slightly closer to the fire, picked up dropped scraps, tolerated a human glance without bolting. Every generation, the shy ones stayed in the dark. The friendly ones ate. Over thousands of years, that single filter, friendliness, quietly reshaped an entire species. Ears softened, tails curled, coats spotted, and faces changed too. This is the part that should surprise you. Hare's research, along with decades of parallel fox domestication experiments carried out in Siberia, showed that selecting for tameness alone accidentally rewired dozens of unrelated traits, including facial structure, skull shape, and even the timing of hormone release. Nobody was breeding for cute, they were breeding for calm. Cute came along as a side effect nobody planned. You were not just choosing a companion generation after generation. You were, without realizing it, sculpting a face that would one day speak directly to your own instincts. And your instincts were already listening long before the first dog ever existed. Human brains are extraordinarily tuned to a specific set of features. Big eyes relative to face size, a rounded forehead, cheeks that widen the lower face, a short muzzle or nose. Scientists call this cluster of traits neoteny, and your brain reads it as one thing almost automatically. Infant. Something vulnerable. Something that needs you. It is why a baby's face stops you mid-sentence, why you soften your voice without thinking. It is also unmistakably why a puppy's face does the same thing, hijacking a response that was never built for another species in the first place. Dogs did not just gain a new muscle.
Nope.
Over generations, their skulls softened toward roundness. Their eyes grew relatively large. Their faces retained juvenile proportions long into adulthood, sometimes for their entire lives. They kept the blueprint of babyhood and never fully outgrew it. Your dog, biologically speaking, is frozen partway between wolf pup and wolf adult. Your brain cannot help responding to that the way it responds to a human infant, because as far as your oldest instincts are concerned, it might as well be one. But the eyebrow muscle is only step one. What happens next is where the real trick lives.
Magic.
And it happens inside your own body, not the dog's. In 2015, animal behavior researcher Miho Nagasawa and her colleagues ran an experiment that measured something you cannot see with the naked eye. They had dogs and their owners simply look into each other's eyes for a few minutes, then tested both species' blood before and after.
Research complete.
In both the human and the dog, oxytocin rose. The same hormone that surges when a mother looks at her newborn. The same hormone that deepens trust between people who love each other. The same hormone linked to feelings of safety, attachment, and calm. Here is the part that made headlines around the world. The rise in the owner's oxytocin was directly tied to how long the dog held eye contact. The longer the gaze, the stronger the chemical response in the human brain. And in a striking twist, wolves raised by humans from birth, hand-fed, deeply bonded, did not produce this effect at all.
Nope.
Even with owners they trusted completely. The loop simply was not there.
You get nothing.
Something about domestication had built a new channel between two species that raw trust and closeness alone could not create. Nagasawa called it an oxytocin gaze loop. Your dog looks at you. Your brain releases the same bonding chemical it releases for your own child. That chemical shift changes your behavior toward the dog, softer voice, more attention, more affection, more time spent staring back. The dog, in turn, produces more oxytocin from your response. Round and round it goes, each glance reinforcing the next, until an animal from a completely different species has wired itself directly into one of the oldest bonding circuits your brain owns, a circuit shaped by millions of years to protect your own children. You were not imagining the connection. You were, quite literally, hormonally entangled with another species, through a loop that domestic dogs are uniquely built to trigger and wolves, even tame ones, are not. Now look at where this loop shows up today. You talk to your dog in a higher pitched voice without ever deciding to.
Who's a good baby? Dogs are high-pitched, playful voices. This strengthens the bond between humans and their canine companions.
You narrate its thoughts out loud, giving it opinions about the mail carrier or the vacuum cleaner. You call yourself its parent, half joking, half not. And other people accept the joke instantly because some part of them recognizes the shape of what you mean. You have almost certainly felt a version of grief for a pet that surprised you with its intensity, a grief that made no logical sense next to how you might mourn some distant relatives, until you remember that your brain never filed the relationship as pet in the first place. It filed it under the same folder as family, the same folder your ancestors used for their own children, opened by a muscle, a gaze, and a hormone none of you ever consciously chose. Notice something else too. The eyebrow move rarely happens when your dog wants something from another dog. It saves that expression almost entirely for you.
Nice.
Researchers studying dog behavior have repeatedly found that dogs orient their whole communicative toolkit toward the human face in a way no other domesticated animal quite matches. Checking your expression, following your pointed finger, watching your eyes for information the way a toddler watches a parent. A wolf pup largely ignores a pointing human hand. A dog puppy, weeks old with no training at all, reads it instantly.
I got this.
That is not intelligence in the way you might measure a chess player's intelligence.
Checkmate.
It is something closer to a specialized skill, chiseled by selection, built for exactly one audience. You. This is why the guilty look your dog gives you after knocking something off the counter feels so convincing, even though researchers who study the behavior have found the expression often appears regardless of whether the dog actually did anything wrong, triggered instead by your tone, your posture, the fact that you are staring. The face was never really built to confess guilt.
I plead not guilty.
It was built to read you and respond to you, a survival skill in a world where your goodwill decided whether an animal got fed. So picture it all stacked together. A muscle wolves do not have, shaped by thousands of years of humans unconsciously rewarding friendliness over fear. A face frozen in a permanently juvenile shape.
Goo goo gaga.
Tripping the same alarms in your brain that a crying infant would trip. A hormonal feedback loop that only activates for domesticated dogs, deepening with every held gaze, absent in their wild ancestors no matter how tame those ancestors became. None of it was random. All of it converged slowly, invisibly, across thousands of generations, on a single outcome. You standing in a kitchen, defenses fully down, reaching for a treat you swore you would not give. There is something almost humbling in that. You like to think you are the one who chose to bring a dog into your home, who chose to love it as much as you do. But across thousands of generations, a wild animal quietly evolved a face that could reach directly into your oldest instincts and ask, without a single word, to be let in. And your ancestors said yes. One campfire at a time, long before you were ever born to inherit the instinct yourself. So the next time those eyes tilt up at you, brows lifting, and your resolve dissolves in half a second, know what is actually happening beneath the surface. A muscle built for exactly this moment. A face shaped by 10,000 years of your own ancestors, choosing without knowing they were choosing. A hormone loop running quietly between two species that should have no evolutionary reason to understand each other at all, and yet somehow do. You are not falling for a trick. You are answering something ancient. And the real answer was never cute, it was designed.